Good morning, guys. Well, no internet the last couple of days. Couldn't upload anything. Aye. Let's talk stress. There's a number of different ways to look at stress, and where I'm going to come at this is from fight or flight, but there's also freeze. And in a modern society, you can't really fight. I don't mean physically. You know, you can run away, flight, or you can freeze. Now, the problem with freezing, that means that you're normally holding it all in and you're not able to deal with it. And you got to deal with it, whatever it is. If it's causing storyboarding in your head, where you're, hanging on to something you saw in the news, and you're just storyboarding it constantly, blaming others, all of this type of stuff. And yet, so much of this storyboarding has absolutely nothing to do with you personally. And at our ages, get down to personal, guys. Stop living other people's lives. Who cares? And I know, because the last couple of days, I've heard nonstop all around me this soap opera. Who cares? Just let all that garbage go. I'm going to go this way today. But let's get back to fight or flight. Now, years ago, I used to get panic attacks. Now, my panic attacks would come on right as I'm falling asleep. Mostly if I was on the couch and, watching a movie or whatever, and, just letting the sleep take me. And then I would start getting this bubble, and I'd wake up, and I'd be in this full panic. Now, I happened to be talking to my buddy one day, and he mentioned the fight and flight thing. And immediately I thought, well, I can still fight. I'll go off to the squash court, and I'll beat the living you-know-what out of a squash ball. Until one day, the little chickie poo at the desk walked over and hands on her hips and said, "We don't like it when you come in here drunk like that." Of course, that almost set off a panic attack right there. Had to explain it to her. Of course, it just caught her right here. She had no idea what I was talking about. And, because they've just not had any life experience yet. And you can't run away. Where are you going to run to? Okay, I know there's a lot of guys that run off to another country thinking that that is going to solve the problem. And the adventure does resolve the problem for a while. And for some, it's just that little bit of time away from all of the soap opera to then, realize that all of that stuff was garbage before, and they have managed to start a new life in this old carcass. But you got to deal with the stresses, guys. You got to figure out how you're going to deal with them. You got to learn how to let them go. It's now, I'm not talking about, let it go when I'm talking usually the news and stuff like that. But for some of you, of course, the news just takes a hold of you and becomes this personal thing, and it's not. You got to just learn to let that one go. But what I'm talking about, are, divorces, underappreciated at your work, and yet you seem to be giving it your all. And of course, today, if you're still in the workforce and you're older like myself, you probably noticed the loyalty's gone on both sides, guys. Not just on the corporate side. It's also gone on the human side. There's no loyalty to the company that you're working for anymore. Both sides have just got one main word now. Just like going to buy something at the store and they can't help you. Really, what they're saying to you is, next. And we just have to accept that the population has got to that point. Anyway, guys, I'm just throwing out a random thing here about stress. You got to learn to deal with it. You will deal with it for the rest of your life. There's no problem about that. But is it forcing you to make who you are unhappy, stressful, unnecessarily? Because we got to learn to let it go and learn to live with it, not let it drive you. Later, Gators.